Hello, everybody that is watching live, or everybody who might join us on the replay. Please do let us know in the comments if you're watching live or if you're joining us on the replay. Sorry for the delay in coming out to you. I was having technical difficulties like I have at the start of every live. I should probably say that this live is like half an hour after to give myself time. But
That's
anyway,
usually me. I'm late for everything, so
me,
just blame me. It's
me
fine.
too. No, I would never blame you. So I am joined today by the super inspirational Laura McGowan. Laura McGowan has got a story to tell relating to her journey with cancer, her family's journey with cancer. So I just want to put a wee trigger warning out for anybody who's maybe feeling quite low. You can maybe come back to the video a wee bit later on. Laura and I have actually got a personal connection, but yeah, you're an amazing woman. You've got an amazing story, mum, wife. Will we start at the beginning? Will we start with
Yeah.
the timeline that you shared? So if anyone's seen the promo copy for this live, you'll have seen that Laura shared like a timeline basically of when her and her siblings have found out about their cancer and various different things. So I think that's maybe a good place to start to kind of to set the scene. So could you give us a wee insight, Laura, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so I'll start at the beginning, best place to start. So back in 2018, my sister passed away. She had sarcoma cancer. So she was misdiagnosed for about 3 years prior. She was feeling like really bad back pain, sciatic pain, to the extent where she was going to the or sort of as the shop and lying down in the middle of the shops because she was in so much pain. So yeah, she had been misdiagnosed for quite some time and she had some treatment and things, and our body just couldn't cope. So she passed away in March 2018. Donna Mickey, the people know her already, no doubt. And she was 41 and she left behind two kids, two young kids. So shortly after that, so she passed away in the March, and come the April, I had sort of burning sensation under my armpit. I'll always point, this was the side. And I had burning sensation under my armpit, went to the doctors, they were like, no, like, don't worry about it, it's probably stress, it's probably anxiety, you've just lost your sister. And I was like, well, I've just lost my sister, like surely that's a point that you go, okay, like let's make sure that she's not panicking about this, not more stressed than she needs to be. So they sent me on to the breast clinic and they had a feel, and because they couldn't feel anything, they said, no, you're too young. Like basically don't be silly. And then so that was in the April. Come the August, I actually found the lump. I was lying in bed with my wee girl, I'll never forget it, lying, putting her to sleep. 2018, she would have been about 6, maybe. Anyway, young enough, lying in bed, and she was falling asleep, and I just happened to have like this ultimate itch on my left boob above my nipple, and I was like, that's really strange. And all I can describe it as is like a wee Malteser under my skin, and when I scratched, like you would feel a bone when you scratch, you would feel a bone. It was like it was just so obvious that it was there. So I shouted on Alan and I was like, come on, my husband, come on in, like I've found something. And he was like, get that checked right away. His mum passed away from breast cancer when he was the same age as my niece and nephew. Him and his sister were the same age, and also his mum was the same age as my sister. So there's loads of like really strange, we're talking about this invisible fishing line sort of theory that things come right round in a circle and you're actually attached to people. Anyway, that'll be my spiritual thing coming into it. But yeah, so they were the same age. His mum had breast cancer as well. So he was like, get that checked. You really need to go and get that checked. I went back and they sent me to the breast clinic again, and I said, I've been having burning under my armpit, nothing else, one itch, and I mean one itch that you just can't scratch. It sounds like such a strange thing, but it just wouldn't go away, and it was there and then gone so fast. They sent me in and they were like, right, well, we can feel something now, we'll need to do a biopsy, but don't worry, you're young, you're fit, you're healthy, you should be fine. And they went, sorry, they didn't send me for a biopsy, they sent me for an ultrasound first.
Okay.
And they were doing the ultrasound and they were like, and prior to that, I had actually Googled, which isn't great for everybody. And I would never recommend Googling and reading other people's stories to diagnose yourself.
Yeah.
But I went on official like websites, and one had that there was like the way a cancer would present itself on a scan, on an ultrasound. And I seen them ultrasound and I knew straight away, I could see all the characteristics that I had read of. And they were like, right, okay, we're going to do a biopsy. And then again, I was like, okay, something's not right here. They said, we'll send your results to what they call an MDT. So it's a meeting that they have, a multidisciplinary team meeting.
Okay.
And this is all the cancer specialists that sit around a big table. Some of them are coming over like video call and all that. And it's all the really great cancer doctors out there. And they're sitting down and they'll take each person's case. They said, this was a Wednesday, and they said you'll have missed being able to go on this Thursday's one because it tends to happen on a Thursday in Scotland. So it'll probably go on next Thursday's, and you'll then hear back after that. I got a call on the Monday to go in on the Wednesday. So apparently my results hadn't even been to this big meeting yet. So I was like, okay. And they said, bring somebody with you.
Okay.
And I was just like, right, okay. I know what I'm going in here to hear, but you still can't prepare yourself to go in and hear those words. So I was diagnosed with primary breast cancer, which means that it was in one area. It was just I'm saying just, when I say just, it's because of where I'm at now.
Yes.
So I'm not taking that away from anybody that has been through that or going through that just now. But it was, like I say, size of 𝗴𝗿𝗄𝗧. They removed that. They also removed some lymph nodes from under my armpit to test. And when they tested those, they were luckily clear.
Okay.
So I had radiotherapy for 3 weeks every day on my left breast. And then I was on, that was after the surgery, and then I was on tamoxifen, which is a very common tablet for breast cancer patients after a primary diagnosis. So I was basically told, they've taken it away, you're fine, like we don't expect it to come back. It wasn't aggressive at all, like it was basically textbook, like everything looked great. And again, you're young, fit and healthy, so go and enjoy life was one of the words, or one of the phrases that I heard quite a few times. Go and enjoy your life, you're young, you're fit, healthy. So that was fine. I lasted about 2 years on tamoxifen. Again, it reacts different to everybody. So, but for me personally, tamoxifen made me a totally different person. So it's meant to sort of suppress your hormones, and sort of treats the type of breast cancer that I have that way. So mine's is like a hormone receptive, which means the hormones like feed the cancer that's there. So the tamoxifen's meant to sort of suppress those hormones. I lasted 2 years because, one, I would have loved to have another kid. It was always something I'd have liked to do. But if I'm really honest, it was the side effects that really brought me off, and I kind of used wanting to have another baby as an excuse to not be on it, because it really messed with my mental health. I was a totally different person on it. I went back to see somebody. It was a different doctor from who I had been seeing, and she said, I really want you to go back on tamoxifen. And I said, I'd really like to have another baby. I don't really want to be on it. I was struggling on it. And they said, this other doctor said, I would suggest that you don't have another baby. I would suggest that if you want to see your baby grow up, that you don't have another child, because it's going to bring lots of hormones into your body that then could ultimately feed the cancer that wasn't there anymore. So that was a huge thing, actually. That was really difficult, and I didn't think I'd find it as difficult as I did, but took me a few months, and I realised that, you know, well, at the time I even realised that it didn't matter to me now bringing somebody else into this world, you know, all that mattered was the people that was already there and my family that I had. But you're almost like grieving a loss of that control or that opportunity to have another child being taken away from you. So that was quite a big step, or quite a big meeting, I guess I would say, like just because of hearing that. So that was the decision made. I was never gonna go out with that, although I have heard of people who have went against it and they're okay. So there's always a different story. There's always two people that are completely like going through something similar, but the complete opposite things have happened. So that was fine, and then for a while everything was okay. I didn't go back on the tamoxifen, and then after a good few months, maybe 4 or 5 months, in April 2022, my brother, so he's my older brother, my sister was 13 years older than me, my brother's 10 years older, and then there's me, I'm the youngest. And my brother had stomach pains, crazy stomach pains, kept going back and forward to the doctor. In the November or December, he had an ultrasound on his stomach and they said, no, looks fine, you're all right. Putting it down to IBS, stress, all the usual things that you would hear. And then in the April 2022, he went to A&E and he was scanned, and they mentioned a couple of things like kidney stones and I think just a couple of like, you know, more regular things. And then it get kept in, and the next day I got a phone call when I was at my work to say that he had cancer. And that's something that will never leave me, because all our family was like away on holiday and different things like that, and it was only me and my brother that were here. So even like his wife's family, they were all away, like my mum and dad had taken the kids away, so it was just me and him. And I remember getting a call in my work and I'm just saying, I said, are you okay? Because he would never phone me, like in my work especially, but never really need to reach out for help, or even if he needed help, he'd always try and do it first himself. So I knew when that phone went that it wasn't right. And I'll always just remember him saying, no, like, I'm not okay, I've got cancer. So I dropped everything. Luckily, I work with my sister-in-law, so we jumped in the car and she took me over to the hospital. And yeah, so he's living with stage 4 colon cancer. And stage 4 basically means it's spread to other areas. So it started in his colon, and those cells have travelled to other areas. And he's receiving treatment for that, which is just horrific side effects. Yeah, and it's just destroying him and his family, us all. So he's been dealing with that for a year, and I always remember not feeling right. And a couple of months after he was diagnosed, I was like getting dizzy and like not feeling right. Something just was off. And I went to A&E. I remember going so dizzy that like I went home from work and I said to Mum and Dad, one of you are going to drive me to A&E. I really don't feel great. And I went, and they booked me in for a scan because they potentially thought that it was like a mini stroke. And I got the scan and it came back fine. It was okay. And I remember from when my brother was diagnosed to when I was then diagnosed again, which I'll get to, that I was back and forward to loads of different places. But I didn't know what was wrong. So I had the head scan for potential mini stroke. I was at gynecology because I had like pelvic pain. I was at ear, nose and throat because my neck didn't feel right. I felt like I was going round everybody. Like I was like, right, somebody's going to need to give me an answer. I don't know what the answer is, but I didn't expect it to be what it was going to be. So I was at lots, I think from what I could see on my phone, the calendar, and I had got a new phone in between, that there was around 30 appointments that I had between GP, like different specialists, so gynecology, like I don't know what you call them, but neurology maybe, is that for your head? All these different appointments, and
that was before they diagnosed.
Yeah, so that was between my brother getting diagnosed, and they kept, what I heard time and time again was, you've got health anxiety, you've got health anxiety, and I was like, of course I've got health anxiety. How could somebody not have that? I've had cancer, I've lost my sister, and look at my brother's diagnosis now. Like, of course, I'm going to be worried about this. It's not like, even if it was my sister and my brother, it's not like I've not had that experience to then be worried that there's something else. But nobody put two and two together and thought, wait a minute, let's send her back to our breast team. I never thought to go back to my breast team, because I wasn't having any problem with my boobs.
Yeah,
my boobs were fine as far as I was concerned. So yeah, just hearing health anxiety, like just kind of stress, all of that. And eventually, it was the November of just after my brother got diagnosed with 2022. I remember we went out for dinner, me and my husband went out for dinner with two friends, and I ended up drinking 2 bottles of wine, right, which I would never normally do, but I was obviously having a good time, and I ended up with the most horrific hangover. But I had been noticing if I had drank, I wasn't a big drinker, but I'd been noticing if I had drank, it was like, oh, wait a minute, I was waking up and I was getting pain under my ribs, and mainly under the right side of my ribs, but both sides, but the right side was always the worst. And I was like, I wonder, like, after that night, I was like, oh, I must have been doing handstands or cartwheels or something, like, I don't know what I've done. And so that was almost like a wake up call. I was like, oh, I can't feel like this. Must be my age. It must be because I'm getting older. I can't handle drink as much and getting worse hangovers. They always say when you get older, hangovers get worse and things like that. So I just put it down to that. So then over like Christmas and everything, I was very careful. I wasn't really drinking, or if I was having like 1 or 2 drinks, and that was me. I was drawing the line. And then the following year, so 2023, there was a party, my friend's party, her 40th. And again, I was very careful about what I drank. So I had 2 or 3 drinks. But I remember being up dancing and kind of dancing, like just dancing away, but my hands were up. And I was like, wonder if it's something I'm doing with my hands, because I woke up again the next morning. But I woke up the next morning in tears and I couldn't move. And usually I'd always protect my wee girl Millie, like I'd always protect her. I'd never really let her go. But I remember Alan and Millie standing at the side of my bed going like, oh my God, what's going on? What's happening? Like, why can't you get up? Like, why are you in tears? But I left it. That was the Saturday. I woke up like that and I left it. And then on the Sunday, I phoned my mum and I was just like, I can't deal with this pain. I've never felt pain like it. I need to go to A&E. So I went to A&E. The first A&E I went into, it was crazy waiting times, and I was like, I can't sit here like in this pain. So I went to another hospital and went into their A&E, and I was taken quicker. Then they assessed me, and I always remember them saying to me, like, can you feel this? Like, they were doing all the assessing down my legs and everything. And I always remember saying, I can't feel that the same way that I think I should be able to. Like, it doesn't feel right. It feels kind of numb. Anyway, I was dismissed again. I was told, I remember putting my jacket on. They said that it was muscular. And I remember putting my jacket on, and it was a junior doctor, and they were handing me 𝗚𝗚𝗽𝗁, or a prescription for 𝗚𝗚𝗽𝗁, and said, muscular pain can be really bad. And I remember begging this girl for an x-ray. I said, even an x-ray, it doesn't even need to be a full-on scan, an x-ray. I said, I need to know that I'm okay, because this doesn't feel okay. I know something's not right. And her answer was, we don't want to expose you to any more radiation because you've previously had cancer. And I was like, see, at this point, I don't care about radiation, because I need to know what's causing this. I'm not just, this isn't just a pulled muscle. Like, I know my body and I know that this isn't right. And she went, right, I'll go and speak to, it must be like a senior doctor. And she came back and she was like, no, we're not going to give you an X-ray. I was like, oh. So then I was at the GP. I was like, this pain's so bad, I can't sleep. And then I was given some sort of sleeping tablet. And don't get me wrong, the GP's been great afterwards, but at the time it was just almost like, here's a painkiller, here's something to make you sleep. Let's just mask everything that you're feeling. And any other time that I'd been at the doctor's, if they had taken the time to look at my records, they'd know that it was for something. There's always been a reason behind it, or there's always been something that's came out of it. But they were just, I think, I don't know that I pushed enough for myself. And it's crazy to say that, because I'm one for always saying you need to push for yourself. But now, and even after seeing what my sister went through and what my brother was going through and what I had been through personally, I still wasn't confident in saying, no, you need to do something about this. And really, I should have been like that. I'm not leaving here until you X-ray me, because there's something wrong, do you know? But anyway, I gave it another week or two. It was a couple of weeks in between anyway. The pain did kind of ease, but I was at a point where I was lying in bed to eat my dinner, because it was the only way if I was like lying back, or I couldn't get comfy. And I realised that if I was sitting, if I was standing, if I was walking, I wasn't even able to sleep. But if I was lying down, there was no way that I was getting relief for this pain. And I was like, not even painkillers were taking it away. And I was like, right, okay, there's something seriously wrong. So I phoned 111 and I just said, listen, like, I can't deal with this pain. And I say this all the time, I remember being on the phone going, like, they were asking me questions, and I remember thinking to myself, you're exaggerating this a wee bit. But I knew I was, I thought I was. When they were asking the questions, I'd normally be like, yeah, a wee bit. Or yeah, I think so. Or, but that time I was like, no, like, I can't feel like I've got pins and needles in my legs. There was things like, because they were concerned about spinal compression, so the sort of symptoms of that are like your numbness in your legs are tingling, your bladder and bowel movements, can you feel down below? And I was like, do you know what? Now you're asking me these questions, I'm going, I've been needing to pee loads, but like it all of a sudden comes on. So that was one symptom for me. And just when she was asking the questions anyway, she was going through them, and I was like, no, actually, I was in my head, I was going, no, I'm going to say that's on my worst day. But I didn't realise that's what you should do. On your worst day, how do you feel? Like, whereas people go, oh no, I'm okay today. So so anyway, I went, no, I need to do something about this. I need answers. So yes, it's like, it's a 10 out of 10, like you say. So they were like, right, okay, go into A&E, they know you're coming. And I went in, and luckily I got an amazing doctor who, she just took me at face value. There wasn't any like, oh no, you could have health anxiety, or you could have X, Y, and Z. And she'd done all the examinations, and she was like, okay, I need to get you scanned. I need to scan you. She says, something's not right. We are concerned about spinal compression. We'll need to scan you. Went to the scan. Went to get the scan. And my mum appeared. I would remember my mum appearing in the A&E room going, I'm just came back to pick you up. But I remember texting her saying, I've still to get a scan and blah, blah, blah. Don't come anytime soon. Like, I'll be ages. And she came in and she sat in with me. And the door was kind of open a wee bit. And somebody came round with documents, and she went, somebody's just came round with like suit and tie, certain shirt and tie and a suit on, and looked really official, with documents. I wonder if that's your results coming back. And I was like, Mum, come on. That was like 15 minutes ago, or blah, blah, blah. Do you know, I just really didn't expect it. And sure enough, the next thing, the doctor came in, and I knew right away what was going to happen, because the nurse followed and shut the door. That's like for me, that's like a pure telltale sign. If they're going to tell you something serious, it's very like, right, somebody else has got to be there, and let's give them privacy and blah, blah, blah. I said to my mum, please leave the room. I couldn't let my mum hear that again. I couldn't let her deal with like having to, even though I didn't protect her at all, I really didn't protect her, because she heard me from outside the room when they told me. So basically this doctor was like, it's not good, it's cancer, it's in your spine now. And so I automatically started like panicking, like freaking out, thinking this can't be happening again. But my automatic reaction was to kind of move around the room. She was like, no. She says, sit down and like you can't move kind of thing. Like sit down and don't move. I'm sorry, I'm going to give you the biggest laugh. I've just seen a dog pooing out.
Well, yeah.
We're went from like here to here, but I seen him stop in the middle of the road.
Do you know what? Well, I was quite just like
I caught my eye and I thought, I can't unsee this. I'm going to start laughing, and this is the most that I can't laugh about that.
No, do you know what? That's yeah, just there we go. I know. Super. Sometimes maybe that dog was sent for that moment, just to
lighten it up a wee bit.
Absolutely, that dog will never know.
I know how they've changed the mood. I just seen it out the corner of my eye, and I was like, I actually can't continue. I can't unsee that.
No, I'm glad you said. That was okay.
It's pure. You'd have wondered how awkward I went because she's getting uncomfortable about saying this. Or is it there's a dog out there down the toilet?
Well, I have to say, like you telling this story, you're so strong.
I think when you tell it so many times and you're living it, so I find it more difficult when I talk about Millie, like my wee girl. That kills me. Like, and then from an outsider, as much as I'm not an outsider, if I go into detail about my brother or my sister or their kids or like my mum and dad and how they feel type thing, that's when it gets me. It doesn't really get me as much saying it out loud about me, but there was a huge period of time that I went through that was really difficult, and it was really hard to even function on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, where did I get to before the dog?
So they were in the room. Yeah.
That wee dog will never know.
No, it'll never know. I know. There we go. I know.
Give a smile.
Quite displays. You were in the room. You sent your mum out. They spoke about your spine, not to move about.
Yeah, so my automatic reaction was to like kind of, I was just like, no, and put my head in my hands and things, and they're like, you can't move, you need to lie down. And I was like, why? And they said, because this is in your spine, we're really worried about spinal compression, and spinal compression can lead to paralysis and things like that. So that was pretty serious. I was like, oh my God. See, even when you can move about and all that, you've been told something like that and you're still able to move, as much as it was really painful, I was like, how can this be? I couldn't put them both together. Like I couldn't really truly get my head around hearing that I had cancer in my spine. So they literally like strapped me into a bed and blue lighted me over to the 𝗴𝗏𝗀𝗃𝗃. So the 𝗴𝗏𝗃𝗃 is like the cancer hospital, but actually what I've discovered is that hospital isn't all over the UK. It's only in Scotland.
Okay.
So see if I speak to someone, like a lot of people with charities are down in England and stuff, they don't know, I'll say the 𝗴𝗏𝗃𝗃 and they'll be like, what? So I thought I would just clarify that it's the specialist cancer hospital, which we're so lucky to have. So I was blue lighted from Monklands over to 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃, the 𝗴𝗏𝗃𝗃 at 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃, and they were just like, please try not to move too much and all that. I was then given so I remember getting put into a ward. Alan followed the ambulance through and was jumping over walls and all that because it was like the middle of the night and didn't know where to go. Anyway, got there, got put into a ward beside other people, and I was hysterical. Like I could not control it, and I didn't have any like awareness around anybody else. I am someone who is very aware. I can feel other, like a bit an empath. I feel how other people feel. And normally I would have so much consideration and respect for other people that are in there for their reasons, but I was just not aware of this at all. And
which is totally understandable. Yeah.
There was like 4 people in the room and they pulled the curtain round and I was hysterical. And they said they came in about 15 minutes later and were like, we've got you a wee room. And I thought, well, I wasn't aware, but at the time now I wasn't aware at the time, but now I'm like, yeah, maybe that would have been a good idea to put me in a room myself in the first place.
Yeah.
Like that would have been triggering in itself for the other people there as well.
Yeah.
Because they've clearly been there in that position as well, or similar positions. So I got put in a wee room and Alan had to leave, and I just remember like just being like that to the nurses and doctors, give me something that's going to knock me out for the night.
Yeah.
I cannot lie here on my own in a room when I've just heard the things that I've heard. So they did, they gave me, like I was quite sensitive to like painkillers. I couldn't take like paracetamol and ibuprofen together or I'd be like woozy. So yeah, whatever they gave me knocked me out and done me good over the night. And then 2 oncologists came in the following day and they were like, right, what do you know? And I said that I've got cancer in my spine, and they were like, yeah, it's in your spine, your ribs, your shoulder, spine, rib, shoulder, and your pelvis, and it's in your liver. So it was then an organ had been brought into it as well. So I was like, what, my liver? Like they didn't say anything about that. So I think obviously in A&E they're not cancer specialists. So she's not wanted to sit down and be like, you've got this, this, and this. I think hearing the spine was enough. Clearly it was enough. And they're like, right, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get you in touch with like the breast cancer specialists, get a biopsy done, and then it was like, I think it was like 5 in 1 session of radio on my spine, because once I seen the spinal specialist afterwards, they said, oh, it wasn't bad enough that I would have rushed you for the radiotherapy. He says, but it's great that they done it anyway, because he says, I don't think you would have been at immediate risk of spinal compression, but it's great that they done it, and it relieved a lot of pain in the long run for me as well. So yeah, it turns out I had a big chunk out of my pelvis, so there's like a scan and you can literally just see a big black hole, and that was cancer had eaten away at the bone. And then there's my spine. The only way I can describe it is like the holy cheese. I don't know what you call that kind of cheese.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Imagine like a cartoon and the mice eat the block of cheese. Well, that's the way my spine, all the columns of my spine was, all my vertebrae, big holes in it. So yeah, that was April 2023, and I started treatment after that. So I'm now on like a sort of chemo type tablet. It's not classed as chemo, but it's under the kind of same umbrella because it's got milder side effects than what chemo would have, but it's got the same kind of thing. So it's like hair thinning, low immune system, just like all the kind of usual things. Fatigue, that's the worst one of it all. Not the worst, but it's the one that floors you quite a lot. So I'm on that, which is called 𝗴𝗿𝗖 for anybody that might want to or might be on it even. I'm on an injection called 𝗴𝗷𝗖, which shuts all my ovaries down and puts me into a chemical menopause. So that's a whole other...
That's another thing.
Yeah, which is fun. I'm on letrozole, which is a tablet. So sorry, I should have said the chemo's 3 weeks on, 1 week off. I'll call it chemo, but it's not necessarily. It's 3 weeks on, 1 week off. The 𝗴𝗷𝗖 is a monthly injection, so every 28 days to, obviously with your cycle and things like that, it needs to be every 28 days to shut that all down. Letrozole is every day. That's also helping with the hormones and helping put you into a sort of chemical menopause. And then I get an injection called denosumab, which helps build my bones back up as well. So since April, they sort of started me on the treatment. I didn't start on the actual sort of chemo type tablet until a few months later, so I had a biopsy. They'd done a bone biopsy on my spine, which I was freaking out about. I was like terrified at the thought of them putting a big needle into my spine, and there was a whole big thing about that, whether they were going to do it in my liver or not, which is quite a risky one to do. So they done it in my spine anyway, and it was fine. It was absolutely fine.
So you were awake for that? Was it
local anaesthetic, and it was over and done with really fast, and it didn't deserve the build up I gave it. It didn't deserve the amount of worry and stress and like anxiety and literally just fear. Like
Yeah.
I wish I didn't give it so much time, but in that moment, like there's so much else going on that you can't control that. But I'd definitely say if anybody's going for a biopsy, 9 times out of 10 I do know that there are some that are really uncomfortable and really painful, but both my biopsies have been absolutely fine. So I would say that if you're getting one, then try not to worry about it too much, because that really is so minor in the grand scheme of things, really. So the biopsy then determined what type of cancer it was, and it turns out it was the original cancer that I had in my breast in 2018, and it must have travelled in some sort of way through my body. But I don't actually have breast cancer in my breasts anymore, which I think I didn't know that could happen either. I thought you would have to have well, where's your lump in your boobs or whatever, but no, it's not. Mine's has travelled and there's nothing wrong as far as I'm aware, touch wood, with my boobs.
So it's travelled, but they've not picked it up after they gave you the all clear.
So I didn't get the all clear. That's something else I should have maybe mentioned, actually. So they did say, go enjoy your life, it's fine, we don't expect it to come back, but they won't tell you, oh, you're like kind of cancer free.
Okay.
Which I hate that term, because I would never take that for granted anymore. Like I never think that you should drop the ball with that. But if somebody tells you you're cancer free, you're never truly cancer free. Yeah, enjoy your life and don't make that your main focus, but never like go, oh well, I've got a sore leg, but it won't be anything to do with that. I would always relate it back just to make sure that you're not missing anything. But yeah, I was which I don't think I've mentioned ever before, to be honest, but I was diagnosed in April. So April 2023. I would have been 5 years clear in the August. So I didn't have health insurance. I don't have life insurance. Nobody will insure me for life insurance now either. That's a whole other thing that I don't think I've even touched the surface with yet. Like I think I tell the story, but there's so much more in the background that you could really dig into. Like the fear of not having life insurance and not having something to leave behind to support my husband, to leave for my daughter, is like a massive weight that you carry as well. So that's like a whole other thing. I was so close to being clear and cancer free that everything else, like everything that I thought that I was then going to be able to get, I'll be able to get critical illness again and all that, it just wasn't to be, I guess. So yeah, I never got the clear. I got diagnosed before, and sorry, I've lost track of what I'm saying. I get like that sometimes,
No,
maybe
not at all.
brain fog, but yeah, that's the kind of timeline. So I was diagnosed. I was talking about the treatment as well, wasn't I? So I'm on that treatment, and I'll be on treatment for life now.
And how is your pain, Laura, if you don't mind me asking? Because like you're here, you look amazing. Like how?
I feel better than I've felt in years,
That's
to be
so good.
honest. Last year when I was diagnosed, I could barely move. I was in so much pain. And I will say, for about 4 months after I was diagnosed, I don't even need a doctor to tell me I was clinically depressed, like severely depressed. I couldn't get like through the pain. I was like in my house quite a lot. I wasn't driving because I had a manual car at the time, and just couldn't face the pain.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was in the house the majority of the time and just couldn't, like, all I done was sit and cry. Like my husband would eventually, when he went back to work, he would come in from work and just be like, oh my God, like, what have you been doing all day? And I'd be sitting, I'd be writing things down, like for Millie. Like I was almost like, I had myself dead by the September. So I got married. Jeez, I got diagnosed in April, and I felt like by the September I had this in my head. And I think because quite often I was right about things when it came to my body and my health, I was like, I know that this is it, I'm done. But I think that's hearing those words, and that's being in that really, really dark place that took me to thinking that and feeling like that was going to be the case. But then I kind of took other steps to try and get back on track and live life. But you asked about the pain, and I think if I had still been in the same pain that I was in then, now, I wouldn't be able to function the way I function. I barely have any pain, but when like, there are days,
Yeah.
I can't say like I'm pain free or whatever, but I feel pain free in comparison to what I was last year. And I think it's not until people say that, don't they, that it's not until your health, like it's not until you're unwell that you appreciate how well you actually were.
Yeah.
Well, I've kind of had that in reverse. So I've been really unwell and really majorly in pain, that now the sort of pain that would maybe have debilitated me before doesn't really affect me in the same way. Something mentally that would have maybe crippled me before mentally doesn't affect me in the same way either. So I managed to do things. I do yoga, like I'm going to start a gym class. There's a girl actually, I think I linked her the other day when on the GGC page, but she started like a gym membership for people with cancer because
Oh, mate, what's her name?
Carol, I don't know her surname.
Okay.
The Revive Clinic.
Okay, brilliant. So shout out to the Revive Clinic. That's
so,
amazing.
She lost her mum to breast cancer, and she realised that there wasn't something out there. And I am terrified of like lifting a weight or pushing something, just because they told me not to fall off a curb when I get diagnosed, just in case my spine collapsed, basically. So I'm also like terrified to start doing something like that. So having the opportunity to do something like that is amazing. So yeah, I go to yoga, I'm going to start that. I can walk the dog, like I've started back at work, albeit 4 hours a week, but my priorities are different now. Like they're so different now. And yeah, I'm able to do these things. I feel well enough to do these things. Like I'm taking it step by step and taking it slowly, but yeah, and my most recent scans they've been really good. I've had 3 scans since I started treatment. The first 2 showed reduction, and
amazing.
My spine, you can literally see the gaps all filling in, which is incredible. Like and I was never into biology or anything like that, but now I'm like, whoa, this is really, really interesting. I love seeing my scans. Like it's just seeing the reports and reading it all. I'm quite visual, so that helps me. And my most recent scan there was stable, which means that there's no growth, but there's no reduction. But they did expect that would happen because there's only so much that the treatment can do before it kind of becomes like scarring and they can't really tell the difference. But they don't see anything actively growing at the moment, which is amazing, and it's all I can really ask for, because there's so many people out there that have this and don't get those results. And I know fine well with my brother going through what he's going through as well. So
do you mind if I ask you, Laura, how did you go from that point after when you said that you were really low? What have you done to get yourself to now where you're, in my mind, really positive, you're able to tell your story, you're out there campaigning for people to be aware and advocate themselves when they go to hospital? Because how have you got to this point?
I don't know, like I'd say where it began was, I think when you get a diagnosis like that and you're in such a dark place, it is so hard to bring yourself out of it. But I'll always say, even when I lost my sister, even when I was diagnosed and then my brother diagnosed, before I was in this position of living with stage 4 cancer, that I always found that the kids were like my biggest saviour. Like they were always like they're so resilient. They're so like, it's just like water off a duck's back at times, like, and it's not always like that. But I think when you're the adult and you're thinking and you're in a certain zone, you're thinking a certain way, they're so much more light-hearted about everything. I think when I was really, really dreading telling Millie, my wee girl, she's 11, and I was terrified to tell her because she was really always terrified of me having cancer. She didn't actually realise I had it in 2018 because I found that she was just too young.
Yep.
She didn't need to know, and I wasn't at a point where she needed to know, and she wasn't going to visually see it. She just thought Mum had a sore boob.
Yeah.
She was at that age. And she was always terrified when she'd seen my sister go through. I was so close to my sister, she was always there. And I built myself up so much to telling her. And we told her, me and Alan, my husband, told her over making pizza one night. Just standing there, I was like, right, now's the time. And I told her, and her face just, I said, know how Mum's had a sore back? I said, well, it turns out it's cancer. And her face dropped, but she almost started laughing. And I went, Millie, it's fine. I said, you can laugh if you want. I said, react however you want. I said, I don't know. I said, I might laugh, I might cry. I don't know how I'm going to be either. And she was like, and she kind of laughed, but it was a total, you know, a nervous reaction. She just did not know what to do. I said, that's fine. And we all just kind of done a nervous laugh. And I said, but listen, if you want to ask any questions, if you want to know anything else, I'll tell you. And see if I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know. But basically telling her was like on a whole different level of giving her something she understood, not telling her too much that it was going to be too overwhelming for her. Like, she didn't need to know the ins and outs. She just needed to know the basics.
Yeah.
And anything additional that she wanted to know, then she was going to ask me. So we just told her kind of surface level. And I remember her saying to me out of the blue one day, Mum, I know the cancer's going to go away, but when's your sore back going to go away? Because she was annoyed that I couldn't lift her up and spin her about and let her jump on my back, or I was constantly like, oh, Millie, watch, like so paranoid, just because like they were worried about me falling off a curb. I thought if she jumps on me, like what else is going to happen?
Yeah.
And I always remember thinking, she believes this cancer's going to go away, and I'm not going to turn around and take that away from her, because there's been people, it's happened.
Yes.
Right? Like, I'm not saying that it's a common thing, but it has happened. So I was like, I went, oh, I don't know, Millie. I was like, but hopefully the treatment will help the cancer. And I said, and then hopefully that then helps my back and my back will feel better. But anyway, I think my point is that telling her and the way she reacted in comparison to how I thought she was going to react was like the biggest weight off of my shoulders. And then waking up every day and having to get up for her, having to do normal life for her. She is my saviour. Like, she's the one thing that I can pinpoint. And I know that not everybody's in the situation, but then for me, then it's like, who else then? So like, my husband was always there constantly, and then my best friends and my family and my sister-in-law, and you know, like, they were all, my sister-in-law would come in and like clean my house and be like that, right? I remember my sister-in-law and my mum on separate occasions going, I think you need to like shave your moustache. I was like, are you just kidding me on? Do you know what I'm going through right now? Do you know how I feel? And I thought, do you know what? See, be things like that when I think back now. And my sister-in-law would come in and be like, right, I've got my nail kit, let me do your nails. Just daft things like that, I think, are the like foundation for building yourself back up again and pulling yourself out of that place, because life goes on. Everybody else's life doesn't stop, and you would never expect that to be the case. But for you, your world stopped and your world's crashed. And reality of life going on, if that's not brought through your front door, then I think that it's very easy to just stay in that place. So I would say, for me personally, Millie absolutely is my number one thing that's got me up and going amongst my family, doing those things. Thanks for telling me I had a moustache. But like, just daft things like that. And I think ultimately for anybody going through it, if somebody's trying to support somebody, it's not telling you it's going to be okay. It's not telling you to be positive and be strong and be this person that, you know, in your head you're going to need to be that way. You're going to need to find a way to somehow like get on with life in some manner, whatever way it may be. But I think for other people, it's so important that they just be there, listen, be there. Even if you're sitting there in silence,
It's the company and the
rather than
connection.
sitting there yourself in silence, I was more likely to be sobbing over writing something if I was sitting myself than if somebody was there. And yeah, like I don't know how many times Alan cracked jokes and I was just like, no, no, it's not like that. This is really serious. But then eventually, like chipping away and still cracking the same crappy jokes the whole time. It's like they just, yeah, it's almost like they were chipping
make you
away
feel
at you.
not like trying to make you feel like
Yeah,
normal, like back to the
life,
yeah.
'cause regardless of whether, regardless, it doesn't matter what's going to happen going down the line, you're still there, you've still got some life in you. You need to like just pick yourself up and find some way individually, because everybody's so different, so what works for me might not work for somebody else. But I think just having those people there, and if you don't have those people there, then you need to find the support for you. Like there's so much out there. There's breast cancer charities, but there's like the local hospice 𝗴𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃, which is one of the ones that I just,
you're a big supporter of 𝗴𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃.
honestly, I couldn't be without them. And then recently I found 𝗏𝗏𝗽𝗃𝗃's as well, the 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃's centres, and just getting out and going, and they've got people you can talk to, they've got classes you can go to, support groups. So I think if you've not even got that, if you've not got a kid, if you've not got family around you that are able to support you or whatever, then it's up to you to then find that support. So I think that's how I started to find my way. Took time, definitely took time. It's not like an overnight fix. It's definitely not something, and I try my best not to focus on it too much. As much as I talk about it all the time, it's not my number one priority in my head, you know, like life in general, just trying to do normal things is more of my priority.
That's so good to hear. And we were talking before we went live about like a title, like a cancer awareness campaigner,
Yeah.
crusader, because you are really helping lots of people. You've got a really engaged Instagram account, and we've linked the Instagram account underneath in the post. So if anybody wants it, if you don't already follow Laura, you can go and follow there. But so you have created a community of people either going through cancer or maybe living with a family member of cancer. So how do you, in what ways do they come to you for support, Laura? And how do you, what are the different things that you're doing? Because you're doing a lot to raise awareness, and you're getting out there and you're speaking, and you're talking to people, telling them to advocate for yourself, which is phenomenal.
I think at first, when I was first diagnosed, the first thing I done was look for somebody that was in a similar kind of position, which I do say, don't compare me like for like to you. If you've got something similar going on, your journey is going to be so much different from mine. Like what happens with you is going to be different. But if you can find somebody that you can share, like just the common like things in common, and that's what I looked for. I looked for somebody that was a similar age to me. I looked for somebody that had a similar diagnosis, and also, well, the age and diagnosis, but also I found somebody that had children as well, because that was a whole other level for me of like fear. So that's what kind of kicked off me wanting to share what was going on. And I was a wee bit anxious about doing it at first, because I just think the whole world of social media is crazy, and I was just like not sure what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. And as I said before we started, I've been winging it. So I just thought I'll share it if it helps one person. Say one person goes to the doctor and gets checked, but now I can't stop, because I just receive messages all the time saying that they've been diagnosed because they've went and got checked because they've just followed me. So it's not necessarily me saying, remember and check yourself, remember and check yourself. It's the story behind it that then triggers, well, wait a minute, I've not been feeling right, or I've got a lump, or, you know, I've been back and forward to the doctors, maybe not cancer related, could be anything, and they've not given me answers. I'm going to continue to go. And the amount of people that message just out the blue now and again to say, listen, if it wasn't for your page, if it wasn't for you, and I'm like, I just can't stop this now. Like, I feel like that's my reward. My reward is people like pushing to get answers and advocating for themselves and just feeling like they're not alone. And that's what I looked for at the start, and I feel like that's what I've created now. I just don't know what exact direction to go with it, but it's just a bit of everything. It's just a bit of a mismatch of everything. But again, as well, at the start, I was trying to reach out to different charities to see where I could fit in. And 𝗴𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃 is where my sister passed away. So they were already top. And I was like, I just don't know how this could work for me, like how I could help them, how they could help me. And then I also found a breast cancer charity, 𝗴𝗏𝗽𝗃𝗃𝗃 UK, which I think you've linked as well. And I was looking at so many other things, and I thought, no, for my own sanity as well, like I need to like just cap it at something. So I thought, if I can spread the word by like chatting and going on podcasts and things like that, then I'll do that. But my main work is through volunteering with the breast cancer charity 𝗴𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 UK, and then 𝗴𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃 and hospice are helping me whilst I kind of go in and help them. Do you know what I mean? It's like a bit of both. So yeah, I've kind of thought, right, I'll leave it at that. I'll share other things that I think are really helpful and things like that, things that are helping me as well. But my main work will be with them. So,
what types of things do you do? You said you volunteered for 𝗴𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. What types of things do you do?
So 𝗴𝗏𝗃𝗃, I originally had said, right, I'll take over, not take over, but me and one of the other volunteers were going to sort of run the comments on their social media. I thought, oh, I can do that. And then things have just happened and it's not been right for me. And I was like, right, I don't think I can really fit in here, but just in general, there'll be different things. So recently, 𝗵𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 UK are a charity where it's not like primary breast cancer, it's secondary breast cancer, which I have. And they are doing loads of work in the background. They're not a very well-known breast cancer charity because they don't promote themselves in that way. They don't take any profits or anything like that. Any money that's made just gets pumped right back into campaigning and just the work that they do. So there's, I'll make sure I get it right. Because like we discussed, you can't get this wrong. So
definitely.
𝗵𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 UK, something that they kind of focus on is that during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is October, there's one day dedicated to metastatic breast cancer, which is secondary. It's known as stage 4 secondary advanced. Terminal people use, it's one word that I do avoid because I'm determined that that's not the case for me, as much as it's always going to be there and it's never going to go away. It's just like one of those, everybody has a trigger word, that's not a trigger word, but yeah, it's all the same. It's incurable, stage 4, and all of the words that I've said before. But anyway, the only day that they dedicate in October is the 13th. How unlucky. So one day is dedicated to metastatic breast cancer. So throughout the year, 𝗵𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 UK do all their work all year long, but they have something called Metastatic May, where they do lots of campaigning for secondary breast cancer, because typically primary breast cancer doesn't kill you, and I'm not saying that's an absolute fact, but in general, the cancer would need to travel in order to kind of take over your body, which then kills you. And then when it travels, it becomes secondary, it becomes metastatic, it's stage 4, it's incurable, it's terminal. So in general, primary breast cancer, as much as we say early detection saves lives and check yourself and all of that, yes, absolutely, you have to check yourself. If you catch it sooner, the better quality of life you have and things like that. But we seem to forget, like, how could we catch the secondary, how could we catch the metastatic disease quicker? And that's just not spoke about. You don't get any information after a primary diagnosis. you go away and they'll maybe give you like a Maggie's leaflet and say, oh, you can go there for support. They'll never turn around and give you a leaflet with signs and symptoms of what to look out for in secondary.
Okay.
So there's something that 𝗴𝗏𝗽 UK share, and it's the red flag symptoms of secondary breast cancer. It was made by the girl that runs and founded 𝗴𝗏𝗽 UK. Her Instagram is ABCD as well. That's where I got my little inspiration, because it actually stands for After Breast Cancer Diagnosis. And she created an infographics page, which we can maybe share.
Absolutely.
And it's got all the red flag symptoms of secondary breast cancer. So I had red flag symptoms of secondary breast cancer, and the doctors, the specialists, nobody knew.
They didn't hear you.
Ultimately, I didn't know. So I didn't know to go back to the breast cancer team. So this is where there's like a huge gap. In the NHS, I went to like a symposium with 𝗏𝗏𝗽, and it was around breast cancer. And one of the questions was, or they were talking, and I spoke up because I was like, I can't bite my tongue here. And they were saying, patients don't want to know about what could happen like in the future. They don't want to know like all these scary things. Not in those words, obviously a bit more detailed than that. And I was like, yes, we do. We absolutely do. It might be scary at the time. However, if somebody had handed me a leaflet in 2018 when they told me, off you go and live your life and be free and happy, if they just handed me a leaflet, even if I had just done that and looked away, I would have seen red flag symptoms. Something would have been in my head. Wait a minute, I'm sure I read something. I'm sure I've seen something. Maybe I should go back to the breast team. But there's just nothing like that. So 𝗏𝗏𝗽 UK are basically, one of their massive campaigns is to get the red flag symptoms in on the NHS. So they already had it in England and Wales, certain areas of England and Wales. They've got it made up in 12 different languages, so we can get it anywhere basically. And recently I went with Jo, the founder, to this symposium, the meeting, and when we went there, the idea was to start speaking to people about getting the symptoms into the NHS in Scotland. There's not really anybody up in Scotland. There's me and one other girl, or one other lady, who kind of try and do some volunteer work up here. So again, if anybody wants to volunteer, then they would absolutely appreciate it, because there's so much more that can be done. But obviously the majority of them are in England, so it's just a bit, it's hard to do everything yourself up here type thing, but they all help anyway. We went to that meeting, and they now use the red flag symptoms on the Scottish cancer pathways. So on the NHS in Scotland, they have GPs, doctors, health professionals all have a platform, and they can go into it. There's also a platform that the GPs and doctors and NHS staff can direct Jo Blogs me to and say, on you go, have. So it's a link to the red flag symptoms, which is a massive step
forward, isn't it?
Huge. They had to fight so hard in England and Wales to get it. And I think I was in the right place at the right time. I spoke at an event, and somebody was there from the West of Scotland Cancer Alliance, and she gave me a contact, and Jo from the charity had already tried. But obviously she's in England, it's just not like came to anything, but she had already been in contact, and it turns out when we walked in there, they were like, we've put it into our new pathway. So the girl who had reached out to me when I had spoke at an event said they're reworking or rejigging or whatever they do, redesigning is the word, the pathway, and happened to be at the right time, and we managed to get it in. So now it's available. We need to get them using it. We need to get GPs and doctors, and so that's, for me, like when I speak about it, I always try and get attention of doctors or people whose children or parents or whatever, or know people who are doctors who can then go in and find that information, because I think as much as it's there as a link, it'll be in a link of a million other links,
Yeah,
you know,
lots of
and
resources type thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's like what's actually going to
push it to the
work and
forefront.
what's going to be really like red flag symptoms, what's going to just show up and be quite quick and easy to understand, right, okay, wait, maybe we need to refer them on, or maybe I need to go and see about that, do you know,
Yeah,
like, so that's huge. That was
that's
massive, and that
mega.
was an amazing like achievement. They done so much work and had to speak to so many people and push so many different buttons to get it into England and Wales, that to get it into Scotland like that was just incredible. And they're going to, one of the people that were working on that kind of side of things is going to reach out to us as well, and we're going to look to do more work with them. So that in itself was a massive achievement, from joining the charity and then within less than a year
Yeah,
to that kind of coming out. So that was really, really good. So that's like one of the big things that I'm quite like, I try and share it as much as I can, and
yeah,
you know, because it's literally just a leaflet, like a flyer. It's got so much amazing information on it, but all it is a page, you know. It
yeah,
doesn't take much to share it or to give it, pass it on to people. The
yeah.
amount of people that I've now spoke to and said, here's a wee link to it, just look
Let's
at it,
we'll
you know.
definitely link
Yeah,
that underneath because I think that's going to be so useful.
yeah. And the other thing is, people can go straight to having secondary breast cancer. So people can actually not have initial diagnosis. And I think is it 6%? Yeah, they call it de novo. So 6% of metastatic breast cancer patients actually didn't have a diagnosis at first, and they've went straight to having the back pain, the breathlessness, the, you know, all the different symptoms
Yep,
that you can get. um, they've went straight to having that. So it's important to not freak out that that's what you have if you've had a sore back, but it's also important to like link them all together. And if you're getting 5 of these symptoms, you know, a few of these symptoms, then it's worth saying that, look what I've found. Like,
yeah,
could this be? Can you test me for this? Because at the end of the day, GPs are GPs for a reason. They're general, they're not specialising
yeah,
in these things, and we can't expect them to know absolutely
everything.
everything. They're only human. But if we can kind of guide them somewhere, and that the infographics are the perfect way to do it, basically. So yeah, that's what I was getting at, was the 6%.
So the
Go
6% never have a primary
Yeah, they might not find a
diagnosis
lump or anything like
straight to,
that.
okay,
And they don't realise that they're not aware that that could be a thing. Like, they
yeah,
just think, oh, I've got a sore back, or, you know, the back thing is so big in it all that that's why I always jump to that, and probably because it was one of my main symptoms
yeah.
as well. I always go to that as well.
It's that saying, isn't it? Knowledge is power.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
if you and for somebody to say, patients don't want to hear that, you're taking away their power
Yeah.
by not educating and giving them the knowledge to them trust in themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And you know your body better than anybody else does.
Yeah.
Like, no matter if you're in tune with your body or not, like, I've always known, like, I knew when I was like days pregnant with Millie, like, I'm like, I always know, like, I know if
Yeah.
something's off. Even if you're not, though, like, you'll be getting some sort of symptom eventually. The thing is, I always say you get it eventually, because when I think about my brother, he didn't really have many of the typical symptoms of colorectal cancer, bowel cancer. He didn't really have them. So there's also that element of making sure that if something's persisting, that you just need to keep pushing. And as much as you think that you're like some sort of pest going back and forward, you're really not. That's what they're there for. That's their
Yeah.
job at the end of the day. I suppose it's just trying to get an appointment that's the hardest part of it. But yeah, Met Up UK, as I said, they're kind of, their awareness is the biggest thing. So with the symptoms, they also they're the only charity in, let me second, I think they're the only charity actually to have, yeah, no other breast cancer charities or cancer charities, I don't think, have a map of where the clinical trials are.
Okay.
So where my treatment's working just now, which is amazing, but some other women are in different positions.
Yeah.
And I will say as well, we do focus, and Met Up UK do focus on it being women, because the majority, and I don't want to say a percentage because it would be wrong, but the vast majority of breast cancer is in women, but I'm also friends with a man who has had breast cancer as well. So I don't want to like eliminate men, but it's just that the focus is on women because the majority. I'm actually going to get a % of that because I'd like to know. But yeah, they've got a sort of database where they put on where all the clinical trials are, and if somebody gets to the end of their sort of treatments that they don't have anything else to offer, then they can go on the website and have a look and see where the clinical trials are. They're really hard they're not really offered up very easily. The doctors don't say, oh, there you go, there's a clinical trial, go on that. You need to do the sort of legwork yourself. Whereas 𝗏𝗏𝗽 have already kind of done that.
Brilliant.
Sort of work in the background, so you can go on a map and kind of work out where your local hospital is. And it actually genuinely doesn't need to be a local hospital. You could contact somebody down in England. It's just the different health boards that might come into it. But that's amazing. That's an amazing tool. You can just literally click and see where it all is, and they update that regularly. So that's where, when money's raised, that's kind of things that it would go into as well. They also work on a lot of drug access as well, so making sure that you can get access to the right treatments and campaigning to get access to the right treatments. Recently, there's been a big campaign about a drug called 𝗴𝗏𝗽𝗃. So it's available in Scotland, but it's not available in England. Or there is a certain sort of, the words escaped me, but a certain kind of diagnosis of breast cancer that it could be available for. But if you've got this type and not got that type, they'll give you it for this one but not for that one. But it's a very, very good drug that could work for both, and it's known to work for both. So recently they've been campaigning to get access to that, and they deal with the sort of health boards, which are NICE and SMC that they're called, and that's the two sort of health boards in, I think there's a different health board for England, Scotland and Ireland. So they all kind of work separately, which isn't great at times as well, because then you could be over the border and not get access to drugs that could save your life, basically. They're also working on data, like, so basically the stats that you would look up. So basically the life expectancy of somebody like me is 2 to 3 years, right? But the stats are so outdated that that's another big focus of theirs, that they're trying to make sure one of their sort of sayings or taglines are count as whilst we're alive, not dead. Because you become a statistic, I can never say that, but you become a stat after you pass away. But even when you pass away, they've discovered that, say I was to pass away in my condition, but it was my heart that gave up, it would be noted down as I had a heart attack or my heart failure or something like that. And maybe in the background somewhere it will say about having secondary breast cancer. But more than likely, the secondary breast cancer and the treatment that you've had has then caused you to have this heart issue. And if I hadn't had all that, then I wouldn't have had the heart problem. So then you go down as you pass away because of your heart.
It's not looked at the full picture.
And then you're not counted as someone who has passed away from secondary breast cancer. So it gets
very
lost.
Skewed. Yeah, makes the stats so skewed, doesn't it?
So then when I get diagnosed and I Google and it says I've got a 2 to 3 year life expectancy, that's mental torture. And for that to not be right, so that is a huge focus of theirs, which I think is amazing. Jo, who, as I said, the founder, and Kat, one of the girls who's a really amazing volunteer as well, they're part of some sort of national audit. It is 𝗏𝗏𝗖, it's called. It's the national audit, so that they're starting to get things changed, and how the data is stored and how it's used, and for all the stats to hopefully change as well. And the aim is to kind of, which I agree with, to see the diagnosis as more of a chronic disease rather than a terminal diagnosis. because there's so many other diagnoses out there that people get, like Crohn's and MS and things like that. But as soon as we hear the word stage 4 cancer or incurable cancer, it just becomes something so different in your head, which it is, and I know it is, but they want to kind of change that whole I think I said 2 to 3 years, sorry, 2 to 5 year life expectancy. They want to kind of change the view around that, and the way the treatments are progressing and everything as well. Is
because, like you said, it makes a difference for you to Google and see X to Y if it's not actually truly correct, and if they made it correct and it was maybe a lot longer. Your mindset. So
they're all. I think this is another reason why I kind of was drawn towards this charity, because it's all about really truly making a difference. It's not about, and it's up to the individual, but it's not about the pink fluffy campaigns, which is something that you'll see quite a lot during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Is that it's not that I won't wear a pink t-shirt and say, oh, you know, breast cancer, but when there's companies out there that sell I was going to say memorabilia, it's not, like
merch,
when they sell that and it's like 5 pence goes to X breast cancer charity or whatever, it's not actually, it's getting the sales for the different places. It's not really benefiting the charities minor, like, at all. What they might make £1 a day from some sort of big high street store selling all this stuff, and really, where's it coming back to? It's coming back to the high street store. The awareness is, oh, where did you get that from? I got it from X store, you know. So I'm like, but we're all in the mindset of this charity has so much more work that it'll actually change people's lives, like it'll actually help people in these situations. And there's lots of charities out there that will help and they'll support, but Met Up UK are really leading the way with it, and there's lots of other charities kind of following suit and trying to copy a lot of things that they're doing. And I think that's why I was drawn to this. It's not about making it look glamorous or, you know, making it look like a good thing to have or gaining some sort of social status over it. It's very much like they do really hard work, and work that's could potentially help you save your life. And that for me means more than anything, really.
And it's like what you said as well, Laura, in your bio, the text that you sent us, like, cancer doesn't give a shit about a month. Like, it doesn't take a break. It doesn't, and obviously it is good to have awareness months because it's good to remind people. And we spoke about like checking your breast, and we're going to link a video underneath that a couple of doctors had filmed years ago for GGC and showing you how. So I think they sound amazing. And is there anything that GGC or anyone watching this can do to support you and support them?
Yeah, well, I think even just that, so they've got like social media platforms and things like that, but they're not like fully in your face with it, which is probably something that they're kind of looking at on Instagram and things like that to try and bring more awareness. So even just following their page and sharing their posts, like, you'll see things, and some things might not mean anything to you, but even just sharing that red flag symptom, I'm not saying to benefit the charity, I'm actually saying to benefit anybody that's around you, your followers, your friends, your family, anybody that looks at that post could benefit from it at one time or another. And I think somebody always knows somebody that's got or had breast cancer as well. So yeah, I think it's just really, if you wanted to volunteer, like if there was a reason, you don't even need to have a reason, to be honest, but if you wanted to volunteer, they're always looking for volunteers in Scotland as well as England, but I'm going to promote Scotland because we're in Glasgow. And they do, like, again, you can raise funds for them and things like that, which I'm going to look at trying to do something for them, because it's not a hugely funded, like, you know, there's not lots and lots of people raising money for them, so the pot's quite low in order for them to do different things. There's also like the word's disappeared from me, but it's like a thing that travels the country, like a display,
like a kind of road
show
type thing.
It's called the Darker Pink campaign, and it's 31 silhouettes of women, and it represents 31 people who die every day from metastatic breast cancer. And I'm hoping to bring that up to Glasgow at some point next year, and have it displayed for like a month or so. And I'm going to try and so if anybody knows of anywhere that's a really public place that would be willing to have it on display, then that would be good to know as well, because
and hopefully there's a few folk listening that would have some ideas about where it could go. So like an outdoor area or an indoor area?
I think it would need to be indoor. So I'm going to see if if anybody works for the 𝗵𝗀𝗃 or knows anybody in the 𝗵𝗃, I was hoping to see if they could have, because it's huge in there, so they could maybe have it on display. I'm also looking at my workplace, because they've got an indoor-outdoor area that the public can come into as well. So again, just any ideas, like they're all ears, do you know what I mean? Like if I take something to them, they'll be like, yeah, let's look at doing it, because it's all for making a difference. Honestly, they're just amazing, and the majority of the volunteers are secondary breast cancer patients. So they're
lived experience them.
They're literally, they just all try and help each other, and it's a great wee community to be part of. Like, but you don't need to have had breast cancer or have it or secondary. It's just like about wanting to make a change and make a difference. So,
and any charity that wants to make a change for the better for people, like it's just, it's amazing, isn't it? So I actually met a lady from the 𝗵𝗀𝗃 at our networking event last week, so I can introduce you to her.
Great.
So hopefully that could be
that'd
something.
be really good. There's so much. I think, like, I am so open to ideas. Like, even we were talking before, like with my social media page, if there was anybody that would be like, oh yeah, like I'm training in this or wanting to do this, like, you know, like I'd welcome help with open
help
arms.
you grow your following so that you're spreading more awareness.
Because I think doing all these things, that's the main aim. But I don't know, like I've said before, I am winging it. I don't really know if I'm doing it the right way. We're getting somewhere,
doing it very well.
You
have to say, right, okay,
I'm like,
so I know you are. So there's a few things, so if anybody's watching this and thinking to themselves, I can help, there's something I could do, be it direct with Laura, with the charity, you know, reach out, comment, or reach out to your Instagram. Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Any ideas? It sounds like you're super open to it and super
definitely
happy to receive. But Laura, like, that was,
sorry, very long.
No,
I said that, I was like, do we have a time limit? And I didn't even look at the time.
No, that was like, you took us on a journey, and you did so, like, I mean, I just think you're really incredibly strong, and I think what you're doing to help other people, to spread the word, is phenomenal.
That's ultimately the aim, is just to make sure people have the support and help. And if I know something that I can share with somebody else and one other person benefits from it, but with the powers of social media, it gets further than one person. It really does actually help. So it's not for any sort of, like I always say this, but it's not for a status for me. I couldn't care less how many followers I have or how many likes I have on a page. But if we can make this go further, if we can spread it, if I can be that voice for these charities like 𝗴𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃, which we've not even had a chance to touch on, but they're also amazing and very, very local, and lots of people know about them. And I'll keep sharing about them because they directly help me as well. And I feel like people that support me, I want to support them in return. And if it means like getting all you guys on board as well, and like supporting them in the meantime, it actually helps me directly. And if money's getting raised for them, it's in turn paying for a wee craft day that I go into the hospice, and you know that it's like, you don't realise how directly it can actually help. And I think sometimes when people raise money for charities and don't actually see where it's going, it doesn't feel as good. Whereas if you can see directly where money's went to, if you could be like, oh, this X amount has paid for this or that,
impact,
or I can show you this is what I've done and this is how much it would have cost or whatever, then I'll absolutely do that, because everybody needs these charities in their life.
Absolutely. Well, so much love to you, and so much love to your family.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us all, and hopefully this has helped a few. I'm sure it has helped more than that, but this has been really great, and we'll maybe get you back.
Yeah, absolutely. Won't get rid of me now.
do a part 2.
Thank you
So
so much for
thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you for everyone for watching as well. And as we say, please do reach out direct, and if you've got any ideas for helping in the comments, let's go for it as well. So thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you.
Speak to you soon.